各位观众大家好，欢迎收看邓洪说法节目，我是美国联邦律师邓洪，让我们知法守法，据理力争。今天国会 J6 小组正式向前总统川普发出了传票，传票分成两类，一个是要求提供文件的这个 subpoena， 另外一个他传呼他必须在这个11月14号之前到国会本人亲自要到国会里边出庭作证。当然这个传票在这个上次 J6 听证会的时候，他们已经投票要求传唤这川普的，不过那时候还没有官方的这个传呼在这个之前，川普知道国会要传呼他之后，他马上写了14页的这个回应文来评级 J6 小组，认为这是一个政治的打击行动在国会今天正式发出了这个传票，并且设立了一个截止日期在截止日期里边的话，再说川普必须在11月14号之前到国会进行当面的听证会，接受国会议员的交叉盘问。同时他要求提供这方面的文件的话，截止日期是11月4号。当然是11月4号是在选举之前这个11月8号当然在目前这种情势去看起来的话看起来 J6 小组一定要赶在这个国会这个投票之前的话，国会中期选举之前采取一些政治行动。当然这也是个政治运作。如果共和党控制了这个众议院，那 Kevin McCarthy 已经表示他会解散 J6 小组。然后这种情形，当然11月8号选举结果之后，并不是马上新科议员会宣誓。这种情形之下，一般的话会在这个这个12月底到1月初才会新科议员胜任再出任。在这种情况之下，也可以说民主党知道大势已去，要做最后的挣扎，希望的话能够在选举之前在这个 J6 寿命快到这个结束之前做出一些政治的表态。他要求川普出庭作证，那当然川普可以看得出他每一份传票他都会抗争到底的相信他的律师很快的话会提出这个上诉。这个案件在上诉过程之中有可能会拖延几个月。当然我们刚才讲到这个一拖延下来，那基本上如果拖延超过2个月的时间，那 J6 已经解散了，这个传票也没有任何的实在的意义。所以对民主党来说，他们希望的话能够投票维持 J6 小组的合法性。当然这个解读也可能会认为这个就是红潮的更这个再起，因为现在民调已经显示出来，共和党很有可能会夺回众议院。这种情形，这个 J6 小组会被解散，而现在对川普发出的传票只会激怒，导致更多民众要出去投票因为这个行动也可能是红色10月份这个举动。所以现在这个民主党已经是到了最后一个阶段，想办法在最后这2个月 J6 小组的话来发出一些声讨川普的行动。但是很明显的这个国会对这个听证会，民众对这个听证会不感兴趣，大部分民众已经认为 J6 小组就是民主党作为打击川普的一个工具而已。所以在这种情形之下，他在选举前的18天发出了传票，只会导致更多川粉或者是同情川普的人士走上街头，到投票站里边投票，要推翻民主党这方面的霸权行为。 当然这个案件，川普我相信的话会安全过关，因为毕竟的话，他只要拖过去以后，国会变色，那基本上 J6 解散之后，这些传票这些都可能没有实在的法律效力了。在华盛顿邮报今天又有爆炸性的新闻，获得了独家 exclusive 的。他说在 Mar-a-Lago 这个川普的海湖山庄的搜查有这个1万多份文件，其中有103份是属于国家机密的文件。华盛顿邮报尽管是这个国家机密的，但是的话它有内线。他说这个里边有2类资料可以的话，这个引致大家关心的。他说第一类资料里边的话是俄国它的导弹计划，在里边说这份文件里边他说有强势的描述，这个对不起是Iran的，不是俄国的他这个导弹计划。以后同时他在里边的话还有另外一份机密文件的话是牵涉到有关于中国的这些这些情报。他说这些情报里边的话都是属于机密的，因为它的消息来源如果是被披露的话，那这些提供给美国情报人员的这些这不管是在中国或者是在伊朗的这些县民生命都可能会受到威胁。所以的话他认为这个里边的这个这个多份的机密文件里边的话是不应该再保存在海湖庄园那边。所以当然针对这个议题，川普在他的 True Social Account 里边他马上发起了评级。他说 FBI 跟司法部部门付了钱20万来给人来跟踪我，后来的话又付了100万悬赏金来想办法证实这个编造故事来陷害我，说我通俄门的事件。这些的话都是这个全部被销毁掉，全部的话都是证实是这个 frame 已经是无稽之谈。他们这些部门 FBI 跟司法部，他不断的向这些fake news 新闻网，也是所谓的左媒，这些假新闻媒体提供了这些文件。他说那现在谁会相信他们？我们可以知道了，他们是充满了腐败，想办法让这些国家的机器作为一个政治斗争武器，并且这些机构包括了国家档案局。国家档案局的话，它并不尊重我们的宪法和民权，并且并没有保管好的资料，尤其他们损失了成千上万的这个以前的总统的资料，他们都没有去处理好，以后而丢失了那么多的资料。现在 NARA 这国家档案局跟 FBI 他们的话也有可能在我的住宅里边的话，这个栽赃存放了一些其他的这些文件，或减少了偷走了些文件，都有可能的。谁知道有没有这可能呢？所以川普很明显对华盛顿邮报这个文章他针对性的说，你说这是国家文件，但是为什么记者可以拿到？为什么你说我跟前总统这些文件是不能够拥有，但是这些探员他何来这些接触国家机密的权利呢？他没有这个权利。没想到了他们调查人员还不断的给记者给这些媒体透露，那这是国家机密，为什么你们可以透露呢？如果是能够透露，这又是什么国家机密呢？所以这个部分你可以看得出这个川普他如果是司法部持续这样下去，国会变天的时候，那共和党的领袖已经一再表示他会调查司法部是否在处理川普抄家案这方面有滥用司法权来打击政治对手。所以这个部分也是为什么 共和党一直鼓励民众要出台投票，就是要想办法让这种利用政治、利用公检法来打击政治对手的这种行为要尽快停止了。另外一个的话也是一样，利用公检法来对付政治对手的就是班农的案件。班农他没有出庭作证，以后他说我们给你传票，要你提供你跟川普的往来这个电子邮件的往来记录，你没有提供，我们传呼你到国会出庭作证，你藐视法庭，藐视国会，没有出庭，并且他不断的拖延，所以在3月份的时候，陪审团裁定班农藐视法庭这个罪名成立。按照法规，他可以判30天的牢刑，检察官要求6个月的牢刑，而法官最后今天的话判罚他藐视国会的这个传票，判了4个月的牢刑。不过这个班农律师他说，以往的所有向国会没有出庭作证的，从来没有被判过1个月。法官你这样子做的话是纯粹有政治意义，所以话但是法官他说，班农明知道他不是川普总统的顾问，好早以前川普已经是将他开除了，他没有享受到这个总统的特权保护，所以这种情形他给川普之间的往来应该是要接受国会的传讯，他故意违反了故意跟国会作对，他以这个理由判了4个月。辩护律师马上要提出上诉，并且请求法官不要马上收押，所以法官也同意了班农律师的请求。所以在上诉期间班农还是自由的，所以这个案件会打到上诉法院，我们就要看上诉法院的话对法官判他4个月是否合理做出一个决定。这个案子也是引起各界关心的，就是在南加州有2个狼医，一个是南加大的狼医 Dr. Dindal 另外的话就是 UCLA 的狼医这个叫做Dr. James Hibbs。James Hibbs 被指控13项重罪强暴罪、性侵罪。然后今天陪审团经过审理以后，裁定5项罪名成立，7项罪名不成立。在这审讯过程之中有4名女犯者出庭作证都指证 Dr. Hibbs 这个妇产科医生做不当的体检，在体检过程之中性侵了女犯人。陪审团经过研判，他们相信2名病人对另外2个女病人并没有取信，所以针对这2名女病人的5项指控，陪审团裁定是成立的。这位医生现在面临20年的牢刑，在11月份法官会对这个 Dr. Hibbs 进行判决。当然如果他现在这个 Dr. Hibbs 他已经是牵涉到500多个病人的民事官司， UCLA 还有我们加州的纳税人已经为了他不当行为赔偿了2亿3千多万的赔偿。当然他的医生执照也被吊销了。他的辩护律师说这个是公说公有理，婆说婆有理Dr. Hibbs 他是做正常的体检，做妇产科的体检是有必要的，所以他做的体检。但是陪审团认为，针对2名女病人所做的这个下体的这个体检纯粹是不必要，也是不恰当的，所以以这样罪名的话指控这个 Dr. Hibbs 他们认为这种做法就是性侵女病人的行为。所以这2名当然南加大的狼医已经被判了25年，这位医生这个 Dr. Hibbs 的话也有可能面临20年的牢刑。另外一个重大的案件的话，今天在洛杉矶法院 联邦法院也做出裁决，这个就是在2年以前洛杉矶地区这个破获的有30多名加拿大还有洛杉矶这个民众牵涉到这个跨国贩毒集团。这个贩毒集团的首领名叫做这个Untitled Chapter， 这个 Vincent Chiu， 这个44岁，住在加拿大温库沃的。今天联邦法院判罚他，这个法官判罚他14年零6个月的牢刑，一共的话要174个月。在联邦判罚之中，他服刑如果是行为良好，他可以达到15%的 discount， 也是说判100天可以做85天，14年大概要做12年的牢刑才能够刑满。刑满之后，因为他是加拿大的公民，还有驱逐出境。根据检察官的指控里边，这个邱先生他自己是这个组织一个这个重大的这个贩毒集团，在这个跟墨西哥的毒贩做生意，然后他的名字是叫 Tiger 老虎。他的经营是加拿大，他是制造摇头丸 MDMA 的首都。加拿大里边温库瓦他找货，然后运到美国市场来。而在墨西哥，他们有大批的白粉，这个 cocaine 海洛因这一类的话，墨西哥生产很便宜，所以他是在中间，从加拿大进口摇头丸到美国市场，以后再从墨西哥市场的话拿到钱买这个白粉海洛因，输进加拿大市场。这个一来一往以后，他靠的就是要运送，所以 DEA 派了卧底以后进去，然后发现这个集团一共有20-30人参与，里边有物流货公司，有仓库，有卡车司机。这些运送毒品它不是用个人带的，而是用大卡车，在运货过程之中放在大卡车里边。所以经过3年的调查，在2年以前收网。这个案件在3月份，这个温森丘被定罪。到目前来说，这个集团里边他是判的最重的在这个以往这个包括的话，这个在过去的话，这个加拿大的一个叫 Louis Lam 姓林的 Anthony Lam 37岁，现在已经被判4年的牢刑。住在 Rosemead 的居民叫 Henry 刘33岁，现在的话已经被执行10年的牢刑。Christina Sanchez 27岁，以后现在在做5年的牢刑。所以这些的话，他们往往这个就是因为参与这个运送毒品、贩卖毒品以后被逮捕起诉的。很多人认为这个事情不会有太多的事情，以后帮朋友一个忙送而已。其实这个联邦探员他们往往用卧底的方法，扮作是贩毒人士，你帮了他忙，明知道里边运送的货物有问题，那基本上司机也可能会当成这个贩毒集团、走私集团里边的一员，要承担共同的责任。我们经常会处理一些像这个贩毒集团的案件往往是很多他们自己不是老大，但是被别人用作一个奴，英文叫 mule， 就是运送的、送毒啦，拿到钱了去接送钱啦，帮忙洗钱啦，这些东西。他们往往说我不知道是毒品其实很多案件，这个给钱给你的人就是卧底，或者是污点证人，他已经明明跟你知道不要让别人知道我们换钱的时候拿钱的时候这个要小心一点，怕警察抓了。这些都是录音录像跟踪下来，都有视频。因为你说我根本不知道，但是的话这个卧底县民已经跟你讲这个东西要小心里边不能够让别人知道。那基本上他们用的理论 不是说 actual knowledge， 不是说明明告诉你这是毒品的钱，你帮忙去运送，帮忙去送钱，这些他们不用，而是用理应知道有问题 constructed knowledge， 你理应该知道里边有问题。所以的话这个部分的话所以提醒大家，尤其是别人拜托你去拿货送货给你换钱这些东西都有可能是警察派来的卧底所以这类案件到时候为了贪小便宜中了计，你不能够说我不知道，因为的话你不知道，但是陪审团会裁定你理应该知道的。好了，在过去几天的话，因为选举每一天都有很少看到华人媒体对一些政治候选人的介绍，还有他们的政见的介绍在自从上个月开始，我已经采访了一些候选人并且这个没想到现在越来越多的候选人都想办法上我们的节目来争取华人社区的支持，所以我自己也开放一个频道给这些要争取我们网友支持，争取我们华人社区支持的一个机会我们会采访一些人，让他们介绍一下他自己，并且的话最重要的话是3方面。你以前帮我们华人社区做了哪些事情？如果你当选之后，你会替华人社区做什么事情？对华人社区的承诺。最后我说我们也会将来等他们如果是真的当选之后，我也会请回我们的平台，让他们陈述一下子有没有遵守他在我们节目向我们网友做的陈述。所以在今天我上个礼拜我介绍过 Peggy 黄竞选Orange County 的法官这个位置，后来他的亲戚朋友看到我们的节目之后就帮我主动的联络上来，他说邓律师能不能采访我，所以话我今天我采访到这个 Peggy 黄，下个礼拜我已经是采访到要竞选加州州长，要准备将加州极左派的州长 Newsom 拉下台的共和党的候选人 Brian Daly 所以每天在我们新闻之后，在选举之前，我都会请一些候选人来我们节目做客，同时的话接受我们的拷问让他们知道这个我们华人关心他，然后同样的我们希望他能够真正代表我们华人利益的。很可惜的话是这些民主党的候选人，我发出个邀请，不管是赵美心也好，方树强也好，这些人的话都不愿意到我们节目来，这很奇怪，因为我们现在这个平台每天很多节目都有上万人的 view， 有2万多个 subscriber， 但是你在华人社区里边，我们不能够期待这些华人媒体来做看门狗的工作，我利用这个平台，希望能够让更多的选民来了解政治，了解候选人。这些口口声声说是我们华人社区的代表，居然不愿意也不敢上我的节目，这个不奇怪，因为他们没有东西可以谈，没有得的成绩单太烂了，不及格，反而出卖了我们社区。所以今天我采访到的 Peggy， 我也问了他为什么要做法官他自己作为检察官，他也是尤巴琳达市的市议员市长，他从事市议员市长这个工作已经有8年了。尤巴琳达是尼克松图书馆的故乡，在他的领导之下，市政府获得了从亏本变成盈利，建造了图书馆，所以这些都是非常的成就，都是非常可喜的。作为检察官，他看到我们现在这个司法制度已经沦落，已经让我们社区失望，犯罪的人士也被警察逮捕，马上又放出来。所以在保释这部分，他说他会依法来保释，绝对不会让这些犯人这个逮捕就放人。第二个，他说对很多这些惩罚，他会依法的 来惩罚。他的对手是一位公辩律师，公辩律师他认为司法是不公平的。这位黑人的这个黑人跟拉丁混血的这个候选人他说 Orange County 现在应该学 LA County 应该对这些少数族裔犯罪的人士的话网开一面。住在 Fullerton 住在 Yobalinda 住在 Orange County 的包括 Irvine、Newport Beach 的华人，你要选一个执法严厉的法官，或者是希望 Orange County 像洛杉矶一样乱塌嘛，乱一招，那你就选择对手。如果我是居住在 Orange County， 我一定会投 Peggy 黄一票。在选票里边，他的号码是30号，所以住在 Orange County、Irvine、Newport Beach 的朋友，你有选法官的权利，请投 Peggy 黄一票。好的，谢谢大家。可以继续收看我跟 Peggy 黄的采访，谢谢大家的收看，祝大家有一个愉快的周末。I have an honor to have a chance to introduce another very well qualified candidate who's running for the judges of Orange County. A lot of our viewers live in Orange County and also have family who are living in Orange County. It's important that we vote for qualified judges who understand our community, understand our issue. Peggy, thanks for coming to our show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
你好，你好，你中文名字叫什么？
我的中文名字是黄瑞雅，瑞士的瑞，文雅的雅。
王瑞雅。Now, Peggy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, 我是从台湾来的。
几岁来？几岁才来的
？7岁。
所以你还会讲一些中文？
还会讲一点中文。我们家在台湾在家里是讲台语，所以大部分都是用台语。我的国语是去那个师大中文学校学
OK， 台师大里边，所以中文还会不错。那where do you go to high school?
Well, so I actually, because I lived in both San Jose and Irvine, I actually graduated from University High School in Irvine.
Oh, wow, okay. It's a local native Orange County residence. Now, exactly, where do you go to school and why did you become a lawyer?
Oh, yeah, I went to UC Berkeley for my undergrad, and then I went to University of the Pacific George School of Law for my law degree. You know, my journey to be a lawyer is very personal. When I lived in Taiwan, our house was burglarized. It was ransacked. It's those images that you see on TV of people's houses, you know, broken into. It was so messy like that. It was trash. And at that time, I just said, I want to be a prosecutor. I want to put bad people away. I felt violated. I didn't feel secure in my own home, you know, and I wanted to go after the bad guys for violating people's homes. And my family wasn't rich, and you know, but you destroyed everything. And I think about, you know, people who don't have anything and then lose everything. How painful it is for them. But when I was in college, I volunteered at a domestic violence shelter, and that experience changed me. And so I decided at that time not to, you know, focus only on being a prosecutor, but being their advocate, being there for the victims, wanting to help the victims. And so I became very involved in organizations that help victims of domestic violence and child abuse.
I think later on you become a prosecutor with the state attorney general's office. For the viewer, so there's two levels of prosecution agency. One is in the county city level. The other one is the state level. The state level is the attorney general's office. So Peggy become a deputy AG, attorney general. Share with us what kind of job it is and what are you doing at that job as a prosecutor?
Well, here at the Attorney General's office, we take most of the cases we have, I would say over 90% of them in my section, which is criminal appeals and red trial section. We take our cases that are on appeal. So the defendant was found guilty and they appeal it to the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court. They also file what we call petition for writ of habeas corpus. Now we're talking about constitutional issues, and they'll file that also in state courts and the federal courts. So we represent the people from a superior court all the way to the Supreme Court. We take also conflict cases. What happens when the district attorney has a conflict? We take those cases and we prosecute.
I see. Now, in this kind of job, were you able to fulfill your dream as an advocate for the victims?
Absolutely, because we're still fighting for the victims because there's this sense of insecurity for the victims when they see things move up on appeal, right? They said, well, here's convicted. What do you mean? They still might get free. So we give them that opportunity, provide that security for whether or not to secure that conviction.
Now, through your job, I know that appealing sometimes a lot of convicted criminal, the juror have already convicted them, but they're still appealing it. And as a prosecutor yourself doing appellate work, what's the successful rate you were able to keep the convicted felon off the street?
Most of the time, our conviction rate, and I apologize for my dog. I'm taking attention away from, but our conviction rate has been pretty good. I think we have very high success, and because when you're dealing with constitutional issues, the facts are established. It's really here we're talking about whether or not the law was applied correctly, right? And so that's the application of law. So we're arguing how the law is applied. I personally feel like a lot of our reversal now are due to the changes in recent criminal laws. When the legislature changed the law and the case is still on appeal, that means it's not final. The case is not final until all the appeals are done. That is where I think we're having some trouble. But, and it's a little bit unfair. I think it's hard when you have to explain to victims, I'm sorry, I know you thought this person is going to serve 5 years. They're not going to serve 5 years. It's or any of the other changes in the law, how we deal with aiding and abetting now, felony murder being gone, essentially eliminated. I think it's very hard to tell the victims when they said, wait a second, I thought they were convicted. What do you mean? They're going to be free, or one of the charges is conviction is overturned simply by a change of law. I think those are the hard part. But most of the time we do pretty well on appeal.
I see. Now, besides being a prosecutor, you also volunteer in the community. I believe that you run and you're still sitting on the city council member, city council of Yuba Linda. For those viewers who do not know Yuba Linda, but if I mention that, that's where Richard Nixon's presidential library located. I repeat it, a lot of people have been to the Nixon library. Now, why you want to run for a city council member? I know that you have a job career, you have kids to raise. Why you want to go into politics?
Actually, I was just sort of got into it more as a community activist. Here at the local level, it's really not about politics, right? There's no right or left wing way to solve sewage problem, right?
Mhm.
Or fixing a pothole, and safety. So I got involved because I was concerned that many city services were being neglected because the city council was too focused on trying to build a $11 million equestrian center in middle of a golf community next to an elementary school, creating traffic hazards and not the best use of public funds, because when they built this as a public facility, very limited number of people will get to use it. Only people who own horses will get to use it, but it's $11 million. There's maintenance fees. In the meantime, our roads had potholes. The city was paying a lot of money to fix people's cars that were damaged.
Yes.
Broken sidewalks. That's a huge public safety concern as well. People were breaking their ankle, tripping and falling. And those are maintenance issues that really, that's what day to day we do as in city government, right?
Yeah.
Is to protect people. So I thought the city council was just wasting their money. And at that time it was, the city council was made up of 5 horse riders. So, 6 acres for an equestrian center.
Yeah.
That's how I got involved because
were you able
council wasn't doing
to
their job.
now how many years have you served in the city council?
I've been on city council for 8 years.
Were you proud of what you have done?
I am very proud of what I've been able to accomplish. When I first, I ran on the platform of infrastructure, economic development, and building a brand new library. Our library was falling apart. Again, it was something that I thought the city should spend their money on. So the city didn't have a 20-year economic vision. So that was the first thing I brought to the table was we need to have a 20-year plan. And so we hired a consultant to kind of identify opportunities since then. And we also hired a retail broker. So since then, the city of Yorba Linda, by 3.5 years into the plan, we were looking at a surplus for the first time in our budget. And we have consistently had a surplus since then. We did so well that during COVID, we didn't take the money we received from county, state, and federal government. We didn't need it, so we gave it to our businesses. Each one of our businesses that qualify received $10,000 in grant. So we gave away 2.43 million. So I'm very proud of that. Our library and arts and cultural center were built without any, the arts and cultural center didn't have any debt. That's $10 million, no debt, all cash. That's saving from those surplus. And then the library had a reserve that been built. We are able to pay for that. Even despite the payoff on the loan every year, we'll have a surplus after.
That's wonderful. That's
so
wonderful.
I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the 8 years I've been here to put them on a, my goal here was to put the city on a secure economic path.
Yes, that's wonderful. Now, why, I know that, you've been city council, you're prosecutor. When do you want to make the move to run for judges in Orange County?
I think I'm just tired of seeing dangerous criminals on our streets. I think the judge has a lot of discretion when it comes to those type of sentencing issues, and as well as looking at the evidence to see if the evidence support the charge that the district attorney had pleaded. So I just felt that given what I see at the appellate level, given my activity here in the community, I wanted to do something about it. I'm a problem solver. When I see an issue and it's not being addressed, I want to be part of that solution. I want to work with people to get there. And so I felt, this calling to get involved in the next level, to be a judge. And also, worked a lot in resolving issues while a city council member. And so I think as a judge, you can be that mediator. Right? You don't always have to be that, oh, you're right, you're wrong. You can mediate. You can bring parties together. And I think that's where I have been very good at here at both at the city council and also at the regional level. I've worked past few years at the regional level in regional government agencies and just bringing people together and say, hey, I know we can get there. Get to the right solution. Everybody give a little. I want to use that experience to bring parties together.
Yeah. I mean, for the last 2 years, it's been interesting because I, as a criminal defense lawyer, and you as a prosecutor, we're working as an adversaries role. We're representing a client, you're representing the government, the people. But now in Los Angeles, for the last 2 years, the DA is representing us, taking away our job. It sounds like, we did not need to negotiate. And then, the DA would give away, anything, okay, no problem, well, this is somehow, it's not like an adversary check and balance type of situation now. I know, but Orange County is a different thing. I think that you're running on a platform of law and order. If you become a judge, are you willing to, enforcing those no bail law, and let all the criminal out, or you want to follow the book that, when they could, because the first step is the bail issue. I think, what will you do differently than LA judges?
I think what it is you have to look at the law. You look at the situation, because it's there judges and in LA who just kind of say, okay, here you go, no bail. Like you said, they're taking away your job. I don't even see the reason for defense attorney anymore. In LA, but we have to follow those rules. We have to use our discretion. And so for me, because even though for the past 15 years, I've been here at the AG's level, working in the criminal law as a prosecutor, I've also have worked in the less of those in areas of law, especially juvenile law and family law, and in administrative law, where I'm working directly with the other side. For sake of clarity, we'll just call them defense. Because some of those situations, and so working with the defense side in a lot of those cases, and some of them with unrepresented individuals, I got to see a lot more in terms of their lives, right? And who they are and how they got there and the circumstances that sometimes I have seen. If the law would just give them a chance, if the judge gives them a chance, something there to give them a chance, and they have the probability of success. And I think that comes with experience, right? And diversity in what you do. I've been in, dealt with mental health issues. That was something I worked on when I was in the Senate. I worked several years in the Senate. And so I worked on mental health issues before it became popular right now. And to identify those type of situation where you say, okay, you know what, this might be one where I can put you in one of our alternative courts for veterans, drug, or mental health court. It's also, is this one where I think you're just way too dangerous. And so there's we can't, we have to post the bail at a higher amount or even no bail. Or other times when you kind of look at the cases and the individual and say, well, this is one where we can do the no cash bail. I think we need to look at a lot of factors. I think law is not so black and white. It can be blanket that way. And I think this is who you put on the bench is so important, is the not just the legal experience. I think the diversity in community as well, that experience that gives you a complete package. There's the legal part, and then there is the human part where because we are dealing with people's lives, that you have that compassion to do the right thing.
Yes, I think, as a criminal defense lawyer, I always treat myself like a social worker, and we because 95% of the cases we settle through plea bargaining. And many times, we had dealt with some of the judges, they just let you negotiate, let the defense lawyer negotiate with the prosecutor. But sometimes, as a lot of judges, okay, you cannot reach a settlement, and they would actively engage and mediate. The prosecutor wants 3 years, the defense want no time, the judge would lock us in the room, have a chambers meeting, and they're trying to convince both parties to come to an offer that's acceptable for the prosecutor and for the defense. But there are some judges who are saying, okay, that's not my job. You guys negotiate. What kind of role will you see if you become a judge? As a mediator, or is just let them do the work?
I would approach it the same way I've been approaching it as a city council member. Actually, in situation like that happens to me quite often. Neighbors fighting against neighbors. You'd be surprised how many public hearings we've had just on those issues that really gave me a glimpse into people's lives. I'm more of a mediator type. I think we have, for the sake of justice, for the sake of doing what is right, and as well as improving the lives of those around us, we need to put all our heads together.
Yeah.
I support the idea that if the two parties can come together, that's the best. That's the best always.
Yeah.
But if the judge needs to roll up the sleeve and get involved, I am definitely that type of judge where I want to see good resolution. I also believe that, a lot of time when you leave the parties alone to try to work things out, you're dragging the case on way too long. And that actually hurts everybody. Nobody benefits. So let's just get to that resolution and give some people finality.
Yeah. Well, one of the things a story I always share with my friend is that, when the prosecutor, federal prosecutor, Jackie Nguyen, now he become the appellate justice in the federal level. When she first come to Alhambra, she just treat every case like a federal case. For DUI, she won 30 days in jail. And the public defendant, as a defense lawyer, said, wait a minute, that's not a jail case. But in her mind, as a former prosecutor, that's the a very lenient punishment. But so what happened is that the public defender's office, along with our defense lawyer, they gang up. When the case go to her court, we set it for trial. Every case we set it for trial, and then and the supervising judges, they say, called us, why you want to set it for trial? We said it's not reasonable. And then because if every cases go to trial, we're talking about the collapse of the judicial system, because we don't have that much manpower to choose juror. That's the reason the judges encourage us to settle down and to settle the case. 95% of cases get settled. I'm glad that Peggy is willing to be a mediator and solving the problem. Now, that another crucial stage is the sentence stage. A lot of times, if the jury found the defendant guilty, it's up to the judge now to sentence. And suppose felony cases, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years. And judge had the discretion to sentence 2 years and sometimes 5 years. It's still within the discretion. During the sentence, what would you do?
This is where I think following the court rule over aggravating circumstances and mitigating factors is so important. I have seen excellent sentencing memorandums from prosecution and defense. And I said, this is well written. And I see the judges, sentencing, and I said, it supports it. You're not overreaching. When it's not well written, when the probation report doesn't give you enough, and that's where I can see sometimes people say the sentence is not fair on the defense side because the information may not be there, or maybe there's no information. I think this is where the judge's discretion is so important. And this is where you look at the experience of the judge. And, going through a campaign is an opportunity for your viewers to see the judge rather than an appointment. And that's where I would say all of those years of social services work. Before I became a prosecutor, or even now, I am very active in the community. I work for a nonprofit as the president of the board of directors, providing services to kids with special needs. So I'm there, and it's not just looking at the kid, I'm looking at family.
Yeah.
Taking what I learned from in that department to this job, I think more than anything will be very important. My 8 years of serving on city council, where I had to mediate a lot of issues between developers and neighbors against each other over the height of a fence. Those type of social, I call it EQ, that helps a lot in what we're going to see in sentencing when I look at the individual. There's got to be a balance there. I think if we don't follow those factors, they're there for a reason, then it does feel like the sentence is unfair, right? And like what you said, not every case deserves that 30 days in jail, right? You need to look at the entire case, the individual, and experience both as in court and outside of the court is going to be very important in how you view the case as a whole.
Yeah, well, it's from your background, from we talk about you seems to be tough, law and order judges, but at the same time, I want to see whether you have a sign that you mentioned about a social work. A lot of times, we as a defense lawyer trying to do what's best for the defendant, and I want to make sure they won't commit the crime again. A lot of times we always ask for some of the lightest sentence, but sometimes some judges are reasonable. Suppose like many of our clients, they are not American citizens. If the judge has sentenced the defendant for over a year, they will lose their green card. And sometimes we ask the judge, we'll do whatever you require, do the DV classes, domestic violence classes, do whatever, but can you sentence to 364 days? And many judges, they don't care, 365 days. And as a defense lawyer, we trying to impress on a judge that if 1 day's less sentence, the family could be kept apart, will not get deported. Can you please consider 364 days rather than 365 days? Because that 1 day make a big difference. As a judge, what will you do in this kind of situation?
I think this is where legal experience is very important, and not just legal experience in the courtroom, but also at the courtroom and having a diverse legal experience. So I'm not just experienced in criminal law, right? My background goes to juvenile, family. I've done civil, primarily insurance and medical. I've done some corporate, but outside of that, I worked under 3 senators as well as in Congress. So I've touched upon many fields of law, from air pollution to water quality. And in some respect, in immigration, I worked in one of the bills I worked on when I was in Washington with a coalition of child advocates was to input in the immigration Reform Act back in 1997, a special visa for victims of domestic violence and child abuse. And so having a little bit of immigration impact, I think it is important to be reasonable. It's important to also look at, are there opportunities to give a carrot to the defendant to say, you know what, as an encouragement, I'm going to give you a carrot. Don't blow it, blow it. And you're facing hard time, and I don't even want to hear from you, type of thing. I mean, and I think all those things come together with life experiences in and outside the courtroom. I'm tough. I've always seek the highest maximum. That's what we do as prosecutors. But as a judge, you're supposed to look at the entire package. And if there's special
mitigating
circumstances,
factor,
right?
Yes.
And I will say also, when I here at City Council, one of the things that I always want the residents to walk out with was, did I have an opportunity to be heard? Was it fair? And I don't like the result, but it was fair. To do that, I listened to them and I asked questions to make sure that, people get nervous when they're talking. So I asked questions to kind of fill in, leading questions to help them to get more information. More information I have, the better I am as a decision maker to bring that out. But what is important, I always felt when it's time to make a decision, before I cast my vote, I always explain why. I take what they said, what the law is, I apply it, and I give them a very logical reasoning for what I do and or will not do. If I find myself in that one space where there's a glimmer of hope that we can come together, that I always seize it. And I said, I would say to the other side, how about I give you 15 minutes to go outside? And I want you to think about maybe you can resolve this by discussing these points and try your best. And then come back.
Yes.
And we'll go from there. You'd be amazed how many times we actually resolve issues that way. Yeah. And I think these 8 years of being on City Council have really helped me. And I am reminded of the fact that I was at a prosecutor's dinner, and I was sitting next to our Chief Justice, Chantal Sakauwe. I always mispronounce her last name. And she said to me, I remember she said, being a City Council member and hitting that gavel as a mayor is going to give you really good experience on handling issues in the courtroom.
Yes.
And she's right, because we probably at City Council, we probably see more variety than probably like in a specific field of law, right? Criminal law. We have seen it. We have misdemeanors all the way to, like I said, neighbor dispute. And it really helped mediate and resolve those issues along the way. I felt very equipped.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're not only a tough law and order candidate, but also someone with a big heart. And I want to encourage everybody go out and vote for Peggy. Tell us how to vote for you, who eligible to vote. There are people who live in Fullerton down to, Newport Beach, Irvine. Is your name going to be on the ballot on orders in Orange County? And how we're going to vote for you?
I'm a county-wide candidate. That means anyone who reside in Orange County in any of the 34 cities, I will be on your ballot. I unfortunately, because this is the year of the retention votes for the justices, I am toward the end, the last countywide judge. So I appreciate your vote. It's the only Superior Court judge office. So you will see my name there. This is one where the most number of votes win. So every vote count. If you want to skip everybody else, that's fine. But please don't skip my box.
And if you cannot read English, don't worry. And when you see number 30, right, you're running for judge number 30. And you see Peggy Huang, Huang, check the box and vote for Peggy. Thank you, Peggy, for sharing your time with us. And hope to talk to you soon. Good luck with the campaign.
Hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.